I just realized that I totally dressed up like a mime today. I did not do that on purpose, I swear. But that'd be pretty interesting if I tried to describe these fragrances with hand movements and just stayed in silence. I'd probably get people to unsubscribe if I did that. Hey everyone, I hope you're well. Thank you for watching. I am going to talk about my Chanel fragrance collection today as promised. And I decided to do this after I saw Amina's post on Instagram. This is Amina from Experiencing Fragrances with Amina. She posted a picture of her bottles from this house, and she was contemplating whether or not to film her entire collection of Chanel fragrances. I hope she does someday if she ever feels ready to do that, but no pressure at all. I felt inspired by that and wanted to do something similar. So that's what I'm doing today. But also, I've decided that the fragrances I'm showing you today is pretty much it for me in terms of all the Chanel fragrances that I want to own, at least for now. I don't see myself purchasing any more from this house, especially directly from Chanel, in the near future. Part of that has to do with the ridiculous price increases that Chanel decided to do with not just their fragrances, but a bunch of their other products as well. And yeah, they're just that. The increases have been ridiculous. I would rather spend my money on a brand that takes better care of their consumers. And I feel like Chanel did that because they know they can. There really isn't any other good reason for it, in my opinion. And I know that buying secondhand is a great option, but even though that is something I do enjoy doing for other brands, with Chanel, it can get a little bit tricky because Chanel tends to shut down sellers that try to sell their stuff or resell their stuff. And also, I have definitely come across some fakes on websites like eBay or other secondhand retail websites. And if they are authentic, they're often very expensive. The price point that these sellers are selling them at is pretty comparable, if not more expensive than what Chanel are selling their current products for. So I just don't want to have to deal with all of that stress trying to purchase from this brand. I have bills to pay and other things to spend money on, so I'm not going to fork over hundreds of dollars for something that I knew was like sold for a lot less money just last year. See, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fragrances from this house. I will not rank these today, but what I will do is I'll tell you what my top 3 is at the end. I'll first start off with this one, even though it's not a fragrance, it's not like a perfume, but it is based on a fragrance that they have. This is the lotion, the body lotion version of Paris-Venice. This is from the Les Eaux collection that they have. I like the fragrance for Venice, but I actually like how the lotion smells like. And also the lotion lasts a lot longer on my skin in terms of the smell of it. This is what I like to put on to layer underneath pretty much most of these, because this shares a similar DNA with a lot of these fragrances. They just blend in really well together. So yeah, I think it's still overpriced for a lotion, but it does do a pretty good job moisturizing my skin, especially when it's not too cold. Moving on to the actual fragrances, let's start off with one of my favorite work scents. This is Chanel No. 5 Eau Première. And you'll notice from this list of fragrances that I do not own the original No. 5. Not in its vintage formulation or its current formulation. I have smelled it when it was older, and I have smelled the current formulation in the Eau de Parfum version and the Eau de Toilette. I've not smelled the extrait, and I do not like them. I just feel like it does not fit me very well. And I don't think anything is going to change my mind. I know certain fragrances kind of take you some time to appreciate. I appreciate the impact that number 5 has had on the history of perfumery, but I don't like the smell. But this Eau Première I can get with. I like this one a lot because it is so far removed from that fragrance. They are cousins in a way, but I have a hard time believing that this is like a straight up flanker of number 5, because this is a lot more lemony and vanillic. There are some aldehydes in this, which is on brand for Chanel. But I think the florals are toned down a lot. There's, you know, some ylang-ylang and white florals in this, but it's not as intense as it is in number 5. And because this is fairly easy for me to wear, it's a great one for me to put on for work. It is not offensive without being too boring, in my opinion. It's probably not as remarkable as some of the favorite ones that I'm going to show you, but it does the job and makes me feel clean. And there's something about it that actually reminds me of my grandma's skincare, like how it smelled. So maybe that's why I really enjoy it too. Next up, Bois Des Îles. I have the Eau de Parfum. And I think most of us are aware that Chanel has a whole exclusive line. But I do have some real life friends that just found out about my hobby who might not be aware of this. So if you're new to the world of fragrances, yes, Chanel does have an exclusive line that is more expensive. And I actually really enjoy a lot of the fragrances from this line. So Bois des Îles is one of my favorites from the Les Exclusives collection. This is, to me, a very good sandalwood fragrance. The interesting thing about this is that I don't think there's real sandalwood in this, mainly because, well, sandalwood has kind of become endangered. It's harder to find now or to harvest sustainably. And so what they ended up doing with Bois des Îles is they created an accord to kind of mimic the smell of sandalwood. And to me, this is a very realistic woody smell. I also get a lot of jasmine and ylang-ylang in the opening. So this develops very differently from when I spray it and then when it dries down. It kind of is intense with the florals at first. There's something a little bit indolic in it too when you first spray it. And it kind of tempers down as time goes down and it turns into this really beautiful woody fragrance. There is something also very professional about this, even though there is this sense of drama that I get from it too. But because of how elegant this is, I feel safe with wearing this to work on cold winter and autumn days. So there are different stories behind this fragrance that have been put out there. Chanel is kind of known to have these myths and legends behind their fragrances, and who knows what is true or not. But the story that I do tend to prefer when it comes to this fragrance is the one about Ernest Beau being inspired to make this after he had watched an opera from Tchaikovsky called Queen of Spades. The music from that opera is beautiful. I think it matches what I get from this fragrance quite well because it is romantic. There is a drama to it too, but it's not too far out there because Tchaikovsky was from the Romantic period. So in my opinion, a lot of the music from that period is quite crowd pleasing. And yet there is something a little bit tragic about it too. And I don't know, that's just something that I feel when I wear this fragrance. Okay, let's get these two out of the way since I already talked about them in my previous video. So this is Gardenia from Chanel, which is a very angelic and light and heavenly white floral fragrance with green leaves. I like the greenness part of this fragrance the most, and it's also a really great blend of white florals. So yeah, that's Gardenia. And then I have Cristalle, the Eau de Toilette from Chanel, which is a fantastic galbanum fragrance. The lemon is also a nice touch in the opening. This just smells like spring to me. It is very uplifting. It is sparkling. I think adding the aldehydes with the galbanum was a perfect match. And I think it's just so unfortunate that this is so hard to find. I wish that green fragrances were more popular, but times have changed. People aren't really into that type of scent anymore. Let's do Coco next. So I have the Eau de Toilette. I recently revisited the Eau de Parfum, and I realized why I picked this over the EDP version. To me, the rose is a lot more prominent in this formulation and in this concentration. I am a rose lover, and it just makes more sense for me to gravitate towards this. But also, I do find this to be a lot more versatile than the Eau de Parfum. The Eau de Parfum is a lot more balsamic on me. And I kind of struggle with overly ambery fragrances. But to me, the spices in this and the ambery base, the rose, the other florals that I get from this are so well balanced. And because this is a lot lighter than the Eau de Parfum, I can easily wear this in most seasons. I like to wear this when I'm dressed up, but also when I'm just wearing casual clothes. So yeah, I do enjoy this, and I still stand by my original description of this. It makes me think about an 80s party girl, especially the EDP. And I know people have issues with describing Chanel fragrances a certain way. I think it's silly to put brands, luxury brands especially, on high pedestals and kind of get upset when people say certain things, but I still stand by what I said. All right, let's do my top 3 now. Number 3, I'm gonna go with Boy. This is the aromatic fougere for me. And if you're not familiar with what that category means, generally it has notes of lavender and geranium sometimes. It does have like this freshness to it, and it's a category that is more commonly found in men's targeted fragrances. This is marketed as unisex. I think women and men enjoy this, and I think a huge reason why for that is because this actually has stereotypically masculine and feminine scent features. So it does have the lavender and the geranium that you often find in barbershop type of scents, and yet the way that this dries down on me smells quite powdery, and there's something about it that makes me think about an elegant woman wearing makeup. So I just love how this marries 2 different concepts into one fragrance. I did review this fragrance, and I talked in detail about how I feel like this is a great depiction of Coco Chanel's relationship with her lover. This is a fragrance that I feel like completely matches what story they were trying to go for, and I appreciate that. Number 2 is actually a men's marketed fragrance. I own this. I personally bought this bottle for myself, but fortunately my husband started to wear this recently, and smelling it on him, it smells so good. I like it on myself a lot, but yeah, I can see why this appeals to a lot of men. So this is Antaeus from Chanel. Of course it's from Chanel. What is this video about? Yeah, so my husband recently started to wear this, and it made me realize how good of a leather fragrance this is. And it's a pretty powerful fragrance. This was from the 80s. It came out during a time when that image of macho men and, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger type of physiques were all the rage. So I could kind of see why a lot of guys think that this is uber masculine. And yeah, I kind of get that when I smell off my husband. But the thing is, when I smell this up close and smell it on myself, I don't feel like it's a fragrance that wears me. Like, I feel like it can fit my personality quite well too. And I think it's because when I smell it up close, I get a lot of this rosiness and almost like a sweet raspberry smell. It kind of smells like a floral, fruity chypre to me when I smell it up close. But then when I smell the sillage of it from my husband, it's like undeniably a leather scent. And I know it is silly to call a fragrance sexy because that is so subjective. And really what makes a fragrance sexy is who wears it. But when I smell this, it just smells so good. It does things to me. It's so good. It's honestly probably my top 5 favorite men's fragrances. Oh, so good, so good. Number 1 is my favorite Chanel fragrance of all time because I think it is the gold standard when it comes to aldehydic florals. And if I were to pick a fragrance that I think is the epitome of Chanel perfumery, this is the one. So this is number 22, and I have the Exclave version. And I prefer this version personally, although the EDP, the Eau de Parfum, is really good as well. But I've already talked about how number 5 isn't the fragrance for me for personal taste reasons, but this to me is a lot better. It just took the idea of aldehydes and just made it more intense. And on top of that, it kind of created this very clean, soapy, white floral fragrance that just makes me think that I've died and gone to heaven. There is something very angelic about this fragrance. And because of how clean it smells, this is my go-to fragrance to put on after I shower and then before I go to bed. It has become part of my bedtime ritual. And honestly, I think this fragrance was the one that made me want to appreciate Chanel fragrances a lot more. The perfumer Ernest Beau just did a fantastic job with this one, even though I know this is probably not the original formulation from before, but yeah, this is just so good. And smelling this reminds me of why I got into this hobby in the first place. This is a work of art in my opinion. All right, those are my Chanel fragrances. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite is from this house. But also tell me why it's your favorite. It's, you know, fun and interesting to read a list of your favorite fragrances, but I always want to know why you enjoy it. So yeah, I will chat with you in the comments below, and I will see you next time, hopefully soon. Bye.